During World War II, you might think the Gestapo's most wanted list in France would be topped by a general, maybe a famous resistance leader. But you'd be wrong. It was a single, elusive agent. And today, we're diving into her incredible story.
So, right in the heart of the war, this wasn't an order targeting a whole commando unit or some high-ranking officer. Nope. This was all aimed at one woman, a phantom who was methodically ripping apart the Nazi war machine from the inside. German intelligence only knew her by this one very obvious trait. You'd think a limp would make her an easy target, right? But instead, it just became part of this legend they could never ever get their hands on.
The real story behind the Limping Lady was so much more improbable and honestly so much more dangerous than the Gestapo could have ever dreamed up.
And get this, the guy hunting her wasn't just some random officer. It was Klaus Barbie himself, a man infamous for his hands-on approach to torture and murder. He became personally obsessed with catching this limping ghost.
You can just feel the sheer frustration in that quote. He threw everything he had into finding her, and yet he was completely clueless. He didn't know her name, he didn't even know her nationality, he thought she was Canadian. So who was this woman? Who was the person who ran circles around one of the Third Reich's most savage intelligence officers? Well, the truth is something nobody, especially the Nazis, ever saw coming.
Her name was Virginia Hall, an American from Baltimore. Her dream was to be a diplomat, but that was completely crushed after a hunting accident. The State Department had a rule against hiring people with disabilities, so they turned her away. Rejected by her own country, she just found another way to serve. She became a spy for the British. And her constant companion through all of this was Cuthbert. Now, this wasn't some cool spy gadget. It was a crude, heavy, 7-pound wooden leg that was a constant source of agony. I mean, think about the chafing, the bleeding. It wasn't her secret weapon. It was an obstacle she had to conquer every single day of her life.
So how in the world does a woman who was considered unfit for a desk job become the Gestapo's #1 public enemy? Well, she became an absolute master at turning perceived weaknesses into devastating strengths. She was the first female agent the British sent to live in France, and she didn't just join the resistance, she practically built it. Posing as a reporter, she created the entire support system in the Lyon area, which was the very heart of the French resistance. Her real genius was her ability to see the invisible. She understood the prejudices of the Nazis, their total blind spots, and she turned them into weapons. She built an army out of all the people the enemy just refused to see. I mean, just look at this. This shows you her method perfectly. She turned convents into safe houses, and she recruited prostitutes who would get intelligence from German officers, drug them to steal their papers, and, on her orders, even deliberately infect them with diseases. She was fighting a shadow war with an army that nobody else could have ever put together. But, of course, the better she got at her job, the tighter the net began to close around her. After she orchestrated this incredible prison break for 12 captured agents, the Gestapo just flooded the city of Lyon. The Limping Lady had to run for her life. And her escape, it was just brutal. A 50-mile trek, on foot, over a 7,500-foot mountain pass in the middle of winter. The whole time, Cuthbert, her prosthetic, was just grinding into her stump, making it a bloody mess. And she had to hide that agonizing pain from her guide because she knew if he thought she was a liability, he'd just leave her there to die. Before she left, she sent a quick radio message back to London, basically saying she hoped her leg wouldn't be a problem. The thing is, her handlers in London had no idea Cuthbert was a nickname for her leg. They thought it was the code name for another person, a fellow agent. Their reply was so brutally simple, it's just a chilling reminder of the cold calculations of espionage. It's just your learn. But for Virginia Hall, cheating death wasn't the end of the story. It was just an intermission. Her British handlers thought it was way too risky to send her back, so she just joined the American OSS, the precursor to the CIA, and demanded they send her back into the fight. To go back to a country where her wanted posters were literally everywhere, she had to become someone else entirely. She disguised herself as an old peasant woman, taught herself to shuffle to hide the limp, drew wrinkles on her face, and even had a dentist grind down her teeth to change her appearance. Unbelievable. And this time, she wasn't just a spy master. She was a guerrilla commander. She armed and trained over 1,500 French fighters. Her teams blew up bridges, they derailed trains, they coordinated sabotage that paved the way for the Allied landings, killing or capturing hundreds of German soldiers in the process. So, after the war, the veil of secrecy finally started to lift, and her story, both the incredible truth and the myths that had sprung up around her, could finally be told.
You know, the myth that always stuck around was that Cuthbert, her leg, was some kind of hollowed-out spy gadget for hiding documents. But the reality is so much more powerful. The leg wasn't a tool, it was a burden. Her real secret weapon wasn't made of wood and leather, it was her own unbreakable will. 1. That's how many civilian women received the Distinguished Service Cross, America's second highest award for bravery in all of World War II. Just 1.
President Truman wanted to give her the medal at a big public ceremony. She said no. She insisted they do it privately in her commander's office, and she simply told them she was still operational and most anxious to get busy.
Virginia Hall's story really makes you ask that question, doesn't it? For her, it wasn't about being perfect or having some kind of superpower. It was about being told no again and again, about being underestimated, and about turning every single liability into a reason to fight even harder. Her greatest strength was that the world never, ever saw her coming.